Well, first of all, Brooke, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So you said you just went to the gym. We talked about a little bit off air. What did you train today?
Back and buys for me today.
Back and buys. How's your split like usually go during the week?
So I usually hit legs Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday and Fridays are glute and ham focused. Wednesday I do quads. Tuesday I usually hit chest, tries, shoulders. And Thursday I do back and buys.
Chest, try, and shoulders. That's a lot. That's a lot. Is that like your heaviest? Looks like your heaviest day as far as volume.
You know, I would say, my leg days are pretty higher in volume.
Yeah.
Because I don't do a lot of chest volume. I just really want to like tighten and tone. So, I maybe just do like 9 sets of chest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, what do you do for chest? Just like bench or anything else besides that? Something more intricate.
Yeah. Well, I love cable flies. I love those. And I do love bench press, and I usually like to do an incline of some
Mhm.
kind. I like the machines a lot right now, so that's kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah. How is where are you located, if you don't mind me asking?
Atlanta,
Al-
Georgia.
Atlanta. Okay. I'm pretty familiar with it. We have some family in Atlanta. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, so not too far away from you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's not far at all. Nashville's really cool.
Yeah, we just went to Savannah, me and my wife, for a vacation, and then we stopped in Atlanta to just kind of visit family and friends. How are the gyms there? I didn't get a chance to like train while I was there. Is everything pretty open? Like, are there restrictions?
Oh yeah, it's totally open here. There's no mask mandates really, and totally open. Like I went to Cali maybe like a month ago. You have to
Mhm.
wear a mask there or you get kicked out. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like very serious, very strict. It's not like that here at all. And I mean, they stay pretty busy. Like the people are still definitely going to the gym and getting active. And
yeah,
some people wear masks, some people don't. It's not super
right.
strict here.
Right. Yeah. Well, California, they got hit like early on really, really bad. So I think they're still like in the PTSD phase of COVID and everything, but yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, California's always like seems to be like the strictest of all the states with regard to like the mandates and everything like that. So I
Yeah.
mean, I would be remiss to not talk about the fact that that you live a vegan lifestyle, and you also bodybuild and train. How did you? Let's start with just the training aspect of it. When did you start like your fitness journey?
So I started my fitness journey about 4.5 years ago. I was just super out of shape. I had horrible asthma. I felt like crap physically and mentally. I hated what I saw in the mirror, and I just got fed up one day, and I just decided to get a gym membership and do something about it. Um, and I never looked back. Like I was not one
Mhm.
of those people who fell off for a long time and then gained a bunch of weight and had to get back into it. I just love lifting. And so that's even when my diet's been like shit, I've been able to stay consistent with the gym because I just love it.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's kind of how I started. In the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I went to Planet Fitness and I, did all the kind of like booty Instagram workouts with ankle weights and all that stuff and bands. And so yeah, it wasn't about a year into my journey that I really started doing my research. I bought Michael Matthews' book, Leaner, Stronger, Bigger. It's something like that.
Mhm.
Michael Matthews, his book. It's great. And
Mhm.
once I read that, I started incorporating progressive overload and tracking food and stuff. And then that's when I really got serious about it, and I started making really good progress and seeing like really good results.
Right. Like that's kind of how everybody starts off. I remember when I kind of got into training and stuff like that, it was the same way. I started off with just like a lot of fad stuff, like people that,
Yeah.
just kind of put things out there and just say things. And then you start doing your research and you're like, does this really work? Because this doesn't seem like it should work. There's got to be like like other ways to do stuff. And so you do more research, you read people that are actually knowledgeable and, either have done it themselves or they have a scientific understanding of how the body works. And then you start like making like some real serious progress. And that's kind of how it was for me as well. So when did you start the other side of that, the nutritional aspect of being vegan? When did you start doing that?
So I think that was about a year or so into my fitness journey. Because I've been vegan about 3 years. Yeah, exactly 3 years now. And in the beginning, I just, I ate like healthy, but I didn't track my food or anything like that. So, I made the same mistakes everybody did by like eating a bunch of foods that I thought were healthy, like avocado and nuts and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Obviously in a calorie surplus while I'm trying to lose weight. Um, which it's funny now. And so I started getting more into nutrition, and then I came across a documentary on Netflix called What the Health, and I watched it with my mom. My mom was like, this sounds like something you'd be interested in, since I was working out and in the gym. And so we
Mhm.
watched it, and to my surprise, it was like totally advocating for veganism. And it was just shocking, like the information that was in it. Started doing more research, and yeah, I just felt like it was the right thing to do
Mhm.
for like my ethics, because I'm an animal lover, and just for like health reasons, because I
Right.
felt kind of like a hypocrite that I was working out so hard, I was trying to take care of my body and eat healthy, but then I was eating all of these products that are high in cholesterol, clog my arteries,
Mhm.
have links to cancer and diabetes. So I just felt like it was the right thing for me. You know it was in line with my values, and it was just what I believed in to be, the healthiest, fittest version of myself. So
Right.
it was pretty much overnight. I know a lot of people like transition and they cut out eggs first, they cut out cheese first, or something like that. For
Mhm.
me, I just totally, because like the images just disgusted me, like the factory farms and just
Mhm.
how it's all processed. It was just revolting. So for me, it was just cold turkey, for
Yeah.
lack of a better vegan terminology. But yeah, it was just overnight for me, and
That
yeah,
went
I've been
over my
vegan ever
head.
since.
Then it went over my head, and then I caught it like a few seconds later. Good one.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've been vegan about 3 years now, to answer your question.
Yeah. No, that's well, it's interesting because obviously I'm not vegan myself, but I have friends that are, and friends that are, vegetarian, and it's interesting, like their mindset, because sometimes people, you kind of mentioned both reasons, but sometimes people do it for one reason or another, right? Like one is the moral aspect of it, which they feel like killing the animals, and the process of all that is a real big problem, and then others do it just for health. For you, it was like a matter of kind of both, like merging both of those reasons.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like the environment too. Like sustainability was a big part of it too, because animal agriculture is like a huge contributor to global warming and pollution, and
Yeah.
that's important to me too. So the sustainability aspect, animal welfare, and yeah, just to be healthy.
Yeah. It's animal farming, one thing that you can definitely say, whether you're vegan or not, is at least I feel so, it's a real big problem. The animals just being literally just reproducing to be fed and then killed. And not only that, but then you also have the byproduct of diseases that happen in those animals because they're in such close quarters, and because they're not living like what quote unquote like a natural type of lifestyle for animals. So that's why a lot of times those animal farming processes, they give them a lot of antibiotics, because to kill all the diseases that tend to happen when you create this artificial thing. Yeah, it's really a sad situation with regard to those animals. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, even if you don't even care about animals, like, if you're not an animal person, I think anyone would be upset knowing where their food comes from, because
Right.
it's really disgusting. Like chickens up to their legs and feces. And I mean, they're all genetically modified.
Mhm.
which I know people hear GMO and GMO, and we're also conditioned to like hearing GMO now that I feel like people don't even realize what that means.
Right.
And with animals, it's kind of crazy. There's a farm sanctuary I volunteer at, and they rescue factory farmed animals. They have a pig that is like over 400 pounds because she was genetically modified. So she just kept growing
Mhm.
beyond what was naturally, what pigs are naturally capable of. So it's this huge pig, and it's just crazy to see things like that and how it's not natural. And I
Right.
mean, just the conditions these animals live in, and like you said, antibiotic resistance, like we don't already have enough problems with prescribing antibiotics like crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how much is pumped into these animals. And yeah,
Right.
it's gross. I feel like anyone would be upset about it, whether they care about animals or not.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you'll, if you look at like cultures that did eat meat as as a society, often they didn't have like farming animals. They would hunt, then they would eat the animal for whatever amount of time. One deer, one whatever could feed
Yeah.
the family for a year, and then they might have another hunt. So as society started to kind of get congregate in cities, and people needed to be fed, and empires start to grow, you start having this situation where animals are being kept just for food purposes in like a single pen. Of course, as you're getting better in technology, now they're using that technology to, like you said, like that pig that shouldn't have grown to that size. Obviously there's, and you hear about this a lot, I mean, steroids and things like that, but that's common practice. That's not something that is even really hidden. It's just done
Mhm.
because the animal produces more meat when they're under that hormonal influence. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like a sad situation, if at the least, you could say that. And like you said, and often disgusting. I mean, who wants to know that their chickens are sitting in feces all day before they get to your plate?
Exactly, it's disgusting. But it's like you said, supply and demand. These industries, they're in it for the money. They don't care about the animals. They don't care about what happens to the public.
Right.
Because I mean, what are you gonna say? Meat causes cancer? Well, I mean, how many other things cause cancer? So I mean,
Right.
you can't do anything. So yeah, I mean, they're just trying to, meet the demand. And you brought up a good point about like how families would eat like a single deer. That's something that I think about with the paleo diet. I know the paleo diet was like huge for a while,
Mhm.
and people think paleo, eating all of this meat and
Mhm.
bacon and butter and stuff like that. But really, like ancient people, they weren't hunting every day. It's like you said, they would
Right.
kill an animal and then they would eat a little bit of meat, but mostly it was going to be like grains and fruits and
Sure.
living off of the land and crops rather than eating meat every day, because that wasn't sustainable. I mean, that would not have been sustainable.
Right. It's much easier to get crops and to plant and get that out of the ground than to go and hunt some, there's no guarantee that you're going to get anything. So yeah, absolutely. I think a big contributor to that was the refrigerator, because once the
Yeah.
refrigerator was made, or a way to keep food cold and preserved for quite a long time in your home, then at that point you can have meat, for a long time, as opposed to before, when you would hunt, you would have to eat that food, and then that food will be gone, and then you'll have to hunt, again, whenever that food is gone. But now you can keep food deep frozen for forever, essentially. So and of course that perpetuates the situation of the animal farming. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely like it's a layered issue. There probably is never going to be like a real answer to the issue, so you'll have to make that decision individually for yourself, kind of like you did. So to go on further with that, have you noticed like anything as far as, like, how did you feel when you went vegan? Did you notice any like deficiencies? Was there benefits you noticed right off the bat, like anything like that?
Definitely a lot of benefits, way more energy because I mean, just naturally by cutting out all of the meat and dairy, you're going to just naturally increase your carbohydrate intake, which some people kind of freak out about, but it actually, you feel so much better. Like you have much more energy. My performance is a lot better. I have so much less inflammation. Like I was telling you, I have asthma. So asthma has always been a really big issue for me. During allergy season, it would just flare up and be horrible. I could hardly even get through a workout. And now I don't really have any issues with it. I rarely use an inhaler, maybe
Mm.
once in a blue moon when, it's like a super high pollen count. But really I don't have any issues with it anymore. So way less inflammation. I definitely feel like I have more energy. My digestion is so much better. And then as far as like you said, deficiencies, I did my research. So I made sure to not have any deficiencies. Now, I will say there are people out there who, like a lot of my clients, when they come to me, they're just eating whatever they want. So you are at risk for deficiencies when, you eat that way. Like, if you're just having tortillas and guacamole for lunch, which believe me, I've had people come to me who do that. You're not going to get the protein that you need to build muscle and get a lean physique and
Right.
and really just to maintain a healthy body. So, is it hard? No, it just requires like a little bit more planning and kind of
Mhm.
research and just making sure you educate yourself on where to get your protein. And then of course B12 is something that vegans can be deficient in. So that's like the one thing that vegans really need to supplement with.
Mhm.
And you can take it with like a capsule. I actually have like a spray that's kind of cool. So yeah, B12 is really the only deficiency that, vegans have to worry about. And then protein, you just gotta plan it out.
Mhm. Yeah. So do you get most of your protein from fruit, from food or from supplement?
You know what? I would say about like 50% of my daily intake. Well, maybe more like 30 to 40%. Like I definitely like to have like a 40-gram um protein shake every day because that's just an easy 40 grams right there. And then I try to have at least 20 grams in each meal. So a lot of my sources like tempeh, seitan, which is vital wheat gluten, and tofu, um, soy's a really good one, edamame, all of those are really good sources. So I would say a
Mhm.
mix. And especially because I am trying to be lean,
Yeah.
I like to use the protein powder because it is a little bit less carbohydrate dense, whereas some of the vegan sources like lentils, for example, are going to have the carbs with the protein.
Yeah.
So for my goals personally, I feel like I need the protein powder.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, I mean, especially since you're trying to put on muscle, it's very difficult to do so. It's probably the most anabolic molecule that you have is protein. That's it's
Yeah.
essential. Um, so yeah, to your point, that's interesting because some of the conversations that I've had about people that are vegan is, and something that you don't do, but you obviously seen people do, is they'll say things like, "Oh, well, I'm healthier because I'm vegan. I feel like healthier. I'm doing a healthier route." However, when you see them eat, they're eating nothing but junk. That's not animal products, but it's just junk. And you see that like often with people that become vegan.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that because that's a huge thing right now. Is it's almost like become a fad. Like I'm seeing people go vegan to lose weight, and that's not the case. Like just because you're vegan, it doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. Because I mean, think about all the things that are vegan. French fries are vegan, Oreos are surprisingly vegan. I mean, and just the world we live in now, like I bought a cupcake yesterday for my parents at Whole Foods, a vegan cupcake. The one cupcake was 1,000 calories. So that right there tells you.
That's like a
That right there
coma,
tells you.
sugar coma right
It,
there.
exactly. And there, I mean, you can eat anything. There's mac and cheese. I mean, there's like plant-based burgers. So it's definitely like you're saying. I mean, going vegan doesn't it doesn't discriminate against calorie intake. So ultimately, you know how it is, calories in, calories out.
Right.
Going vegan isn't going to help you there. You still got to track your food and make sure you're in a calorie deficit to lose weight.
Yeah, I think that's a really big problem. Even like, I never really was into like vegan stuff because in my mind I kind of was like, well, it's vegan. I probably won't like it, probably doesn't taste well.
Yeah.
Well, we have this awesome place here, and we haven't been there in a while. I can try Vegan V. That's what in Nashville. If you ever down here, definitely visit. I hope they're still open with this COVID thing going on. But their desserts, I was like, if this is vegan dessert, I've been missing out because this is incredible. I'm sure they were also very highly dense in calories, but I
Yeah.
mean, they were like super, super delicious. I don't know how this lady makes them taste so well, but she doesn't use any milk. And, have you ever like tried like cooking anything that's vegan as far as like, well, maybe I should say baking. Have you tried baking anything that's vegan in the past?
Have I? Oh, yes. I made a red velvet trifle for Christmas one year. I bought some vegan Cool Whip and put that in between the layers of the red velvet cake. And I used like flaxseed instead of egg. And then I just used a vegan butter. There's a vegan butter.
Mhm.
It's made from avocado oil instead of,
Yeah.
dairy. And so I did that and it turned out great. You do have to be careful sometimes because sometimes the consistency will be like a little weird. Like I've
Uh-huh.
made muffins before, like tried making protein muffins and it just, yeah, the consistency is a little weird. But
Mhm.
there's people out there who, I mean, they get it on point. Like, I mean, my mom gets me a vegan birthday cake every year and they're always amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
Um,
Incredible.
yeah,
I tried to make protein cookies and they weren't vegan. They were just regular protein cookies. And I could not get them to taste right. They're always like, I think I overdid with the protein. I was like, well,
yeah.
I was like, it's more protein. Why not? But it like changed what it was. Eventually, like it became just like a rock and you're like biting into a rock. So I was like, we got to toss this out. I can't, you want to eat it because you made it, but then you're like, that's enough. I can't do anymore.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know you got to have that balance. That the proteiny taste is the worst.
yeah, no, for sure it is. So with you switching over to veganism, did you said you started like eating more carbohydrates? Did you notice a weight gain, or did you try to measure your calories to where that didn't happen?
Yeah, I was still tracking my food at the time. So that didn't really affect me. I was still tracking. Yeah, no, it didn't really.
Got it. Have you so I'm sure you've heard like there's a lot of controversial talk about soy. Specifically people often say that soy is really bad for women. Have you like through your research or through your experience, like what have you come up as far as, those kind of allegations against soy are concerned?
Yeah, so the thing with soy is a lot of these studies have been really botched. So, I mean, it's very hard. That's what people don't understand a lot about these research studies. I mean, luckily, like I have a degree in psychology, and so I had to learn about the research process and about like I have a minor in statistics as well, so
Mhm.
I have a pretty good understanding of how these studies work. But a lot of people don't understand that sometimes these studies they come out and say this soy causes cancer.
Mhm.
Well, like you can't say soy causes cancer because there's no way to prove that. There's no way to measure that. And in these studies, there's so many other variables that are not accounted for, like, I mean, all the things that we think cause cancer, microwave, sun exposure, genetics,
Right.
like all these lifestyle habits. And it's what's, called a correlational study. So correlation doesn't mean causation. It's just like studies that, say, hey, like there was a study we looked at in undergrad, and people were, it was saying in the summertime, ice cream sales go up, crime goes up. It doesn't mean that ice cream sales cause crime. It just it just means that it's summertime, more people are outside, more crimes are being committed, and more ice cream is being bought, but it doesn't mean the
Right.
two cause each other.
Sure.
So that's kind of what happens here is they have these populations of people, and they ask them questions or they test them and whatnot, but people have to keep in mind that these studies aren't showing that it causes this. They're saying it may be related to this.
Mhm.
I mean, should people be concerned about it? Not really. Phytoestrogen is completely different than human estrogen.
So
You
that's
know,
that's the concern, right? The concern was that the estrogen in the soy is gonna somehow manipulate a female's estrogen to the point where it causes some kind of cancerous growth, right? Like relatively speaking, obviously I'm paraphrasing here, but I believe like that was the suggestion, or that was the implication, correct?
yeah, so that's the idea basically, is that, estrogen, it can cause breast cancer, or in men, they think it makes men grow boobs, but that's not true. Obviously, if that was true, everybody would be buying it. So, yeah, phytoestrogen is completely different than the estrogen that's in the human body, and you would have to eat a ridiculous amount of soy for it to ever affect you.
Right. How do you, so, excuse me, do you, let me see how I can phrase this. Are there other nutrients that are vilified that you feel like also have been kind of wrongly, accused of being negative? Like, for example, like soy is being used by vegans often, right? It's kind of been vilified as causing cancer. Are there anything else that vegans might be considering that they shouldn't be worried about?
Oh man, I can't think of a vegan one specifically, but I
Mhm.
can think of just kind of a generic one, which is gluten.
Mhm.
um you know Everyone's scared of gluten. They think it makes them gain weight, they think it makes them have digestive issues, and I have a lot of people buy meal plans from me and they say they're gluten free, and I'm like, well, do you have celiac disease? Have you been
Right.
tested? No, I just kind of feel weird when I eat it. Well, that doesn't mean that you have celiac disease, and you don't have to stay away from gluten if you don't have celiac disease. And
Right.
I think it's important for people to be aware of that, because you're restricting yourself for no reason otherwise.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, how do you know what's making you feel bad? Because unless, like you said, unless you're diagnosed with that specific disease, you're, you know, you really have to do like an elimination diet to figure out like what's causing you these problems. Just, I think that, well, like you mentioned, it's like a catch, it's like a nice fad catch phrase to say, like, oh, I'm gluten free. Everything is now like gluten free. I had this,
Yeah,
I have this joke that sometimes so people say, oh, it's gluten free. I'm like, I can't eat it. I prefer extra gluten. That's what I need.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm instantly turned off if it's gluten free. I'm sorry, I'm not eating it.
so, but that's another one, right? And sometimes you come across this stuff. It's like there's no real scientific basis for you doing it, or a person doing this, but they're doing it because it's kind of like in the media and in the, I guess, in the air, so to speak. So it's like in a
Yeah,
few years there'll be something else, and it'll be like a big fad. And I think part of being a responsible person, whatever you choose to do, whether you're vegan or not, is making sure you do your own research. Don't just listen to somebody else, and take their word for it. You can do your own research. I
yeah,
mean, we have the internet, right? Like, as long as they're reputable sites, you can do your own research. So, and that's part of like the problem that I see with people is they just, you won't believe how many people like ask me about like weightlifting and training, and I'm like, I'm more than happy to help. Of course I'll help, but you can find this out on your own. Like, it's just a matter of a few clicks away. So it gets that way
yeah.
sometimes. So
Yeah, especially like if people want to reach out and be like, hey, is soy bad for you? And you're like, no, this X, Y, and Z. And then they still don't want to believe you and they still want to argue with you. It's like, all right, then, well, don't ask me.
yeah, exactly, right? Like, why did you even ask me if you're not even going to take my advice, right? What's the point? Do you
Yeah.
uh, when you get your clients, is it only vegan clients that you take on, or do you take on non-vegan clients as well?
Yeah, I do help some non-vegan clients. I'm just always very transparent that, hey, my meal plan is going to be vegan. So if you want to make substitutions, you can, but I'm not going to prescribe you anything in your meal plan that I wouldn't eat myself.
I see.
So,
That's
yeah, it's just like
interesting. Yeah.
it just doesn't align with my morals. So I wouldn't want to give someone, something that I feel like would be harmful to their health. So,
Mhm.
I do tell people I've helped lots of people transition to going plant-based too. But yeah, I've helped a couple people who just really, really want to work with me. But they're struggling with the whole vegan thing. But people maybe go pescatarian and something along the
Right.
way. I take any opportunity I can to convert. So yeah.
What's the biggest like problem you think people have when they are trying to go vegan? Like, well, what is the one thing that like that they really miss? Is it the taste? Is it their energy levels? I mean, you said your energy levels went up. Obviously, like maybe others they didn't. I don't know, but like if you had to pick one thing, like what would you say it is?
Gosh, the most common, I would say cheese. Everybody says cheese. I
Cheese.
can't give up
I
cheese.
love
Yeah,
cheese. I love cheese. I don't know. That'd be
I
tough.
know. Yeah, that's what everyone says. That's like the hardest thing for anyone. Nobody cares about eggs. Nobody cares about yogurt or anything like that. Everybody, or chicken. Like
Right.
chicken's pretty hard for a lot of people because I feel like that's just a staple and you can eat that with
Mhm.
anything. And then cheese. Everybody just loves cheese.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy because there's so many people that love cheese, and I'm not a milk drinker. Like I don't really drink milk. I can't remember the
Yeah,
last time I drank any milk. Must have been when
me
I was
either.
a kid. But for some reason, cheese that I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you why. It's just it has a
Yeah.
it has a pull.
There's a great video on YouTube. I believe it's Dairy is Scary, and it talks about how literally cheese, there's something about cheese that it triggers hormones in the human body that are like addictive, like dopamine and stuff. Like it triggers dopamine, it makes you
Yeah.
feel really good. So there's this idea that it's kind of addictive, and
Mhm.
I mean I believe it now because holy crap, I mean almost nobody can give up cheese. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's that. Yeah, it's I would say it's an amazing food to a vegan, but it's definitely interesting. Like sometimes I'll just eat it like on its own, and my wife will look at me like, "What are you doing? Why are you just eating cheese?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It tastes so good."
hey, I've been there. I mean, I used to love cheese. I used to love feta and
Yeah.
because it had protein too. So when I was,
Mhm.
trying to get in shape, I definitely ate a lot of cheese. The
Yeah.
skim little strings. Yeah.
Right. Right. So how are your training sessions that you're vegan and you don't eat meat? Like how's your pump? How's like your training sessions just in general? Do you feel like you have to pull back any? Do you feel like the intensity is there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely stronger than I've ever been. Is that attributed to my vegan diet? Maybe partially. I think it's also just progress and just pushing myself as well. I think it's a combination of both. But yeah, and I mean, I've been able to put on 10 pounds of muscle since going vegan. So I mean,
Really?
I haven't had any issues.
Yeah, that's amazing. 10 pounds of muscle is a lot of muscle. That's not
Oh yeah.
people don't understand like what 10 pounds of muscle means. That's a lot of hard work. That's not easy to do,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. I had and, I'm fairly like muscular guy, and I was at work one day and this older gentleman said, "Well, how do I like I want to get, more muscular, but I don't want to I'm not too much. I don't want to get as big as you or as muscular as you." I'm like, you don't, I didn't tell him this, but in my mind, I'm like, you don't understand how hard and how long and how much work it takes just to put on a few pounds of muscle. It's like,
Oh my
it's,
God, you're telling me. I love that, especially with working with women. Oh my gosh, I hear that all the time. Like women think they're gonna do one bicep curl and wake up like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, girl, no, I'm still trying to build my biceps and I'm like 4.5 years into this. Like, you're not just gonna wake up one day and be jacked.
That's right. It is that. I was just talking to an IFBB figure Olympian, Wendy Fertino, and she was saying how like now it's getting better, but how it used to be that women really thought that if they trained like with weights, they would become masculine. Like all of a sudden would just become, it didn't make any sense. Like it did, nothing in life
Mm.
works that way, but it didn't make any sense why they thought that, but everyone believed that. And so like women really didn't train. Now, of course, that's kind of like out the window. You have so many, you have so many like ever. And so yeah, I was saying that like how social media has kind of like proved that that's not really the case. um do you like, what do you think about social media? You think it's like a benefit as a weightlifter and as a vegan, or do you think it's more of like a negative?
Well, actually, you brought up a good point. Because I think it's okay. So here, okay, I'll do the negative first. Let's do the negative
Sure,
first.
sure.
Negative, I think there's a lot of potential to perpetuate a lot of misinformation.
Hmm.
So, for example, like if I, being in the fitness realm and, I get these ads on YouTube and there's this girl I always see and she's like, if you're doing cardio to lose weight, then you're doing it wrong. And here's why,
I got the
you know,
same one. Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
so people, obviously it's marketing. She's trying to sell programs and make money. I get it. I respect the hustle, but cardio is helpful for fat loss. So I
Mhm.
think that's kind of perpetuating this idea that you don't need cardio to lose weight. Cardio is bad. Cardio is not bad. Like social media has made cardio like the enemy. It's not. And so there's a lot of like misinformation out there because people are trying to sell their programs and sell their detox teas and sell their waist trainers and stuff like that. However, I do think there is some benefit because I mean, it does give people, especially for veganism, I think it's given people more insight into how to be vegan, how to transition. I think it's been really great for the vegan community because you see all these athletes now, like that great documentary that came out, The Game Changers, that was awesome, showing all of the vegan athletes and how they excel at their sport and they're great. So I think in that regard, like especially for me, like when I first went vegan, I would have been lost without social media. I followed a whole bunch of athletes that I thought were great and I followed recipe pages and so in that regard, there's a lot of good information and it gives a lot of people a platform that may not otherwise have a platform.
Mhm.
But I do think, there's a lot of misinformation out there too, just because people are
Yeah.
just trying to sell products.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely creates a community, right? Like you definitely have
Yeah.
a community, especially if you are vegan or if you're part of another community. It allows you to connect with people that view things the same way you do, and bounce ideas off, and so in that aspect, it's 100% correct that it's a benefit. However, like you mentioned, that same clip, it's the craziest thing to tell somebody that cardio doesn't burn body fat. It is 100% incorrect, false, a lie, but people will hear that and they will absolutely 100% go along with it because they don't want to do cardio. And if you tell somebody
Yeah.
that, yeah, you don't have to do cardio, and say, oh, I don't, well, I didn't want to do cardio anyway, great, and I can still lose body fat, oh, even better. And it's like,
Exactly.
that's not true. That's not true. It's the same thing that how people will say things um, like it's all about like your macros and things of that nature. And while macros are important, obviously, like we talked about before, that protein is the most anabolic molecule and so forth. There's things that you can learn, and how you set up your macros is important. But at the end of the day, your energy expense and what you take in, is in and out, calories in and out. So you take in more, you're in a surplus, you're going to gain weight. It's just, vice versa, you lose weight. It's simple, but people try to make it so complicated. And to your point, people are trying to sell things, and they will say whatever they think you want to hear, to sell their products.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know there's so much misinformation out there, and yeah, the macros is the big one. People overcomplicate nutrition and training,
Absolutely.
and it's and that's like the different strategies. Like some people, their sales strategy is, hey, this is so easy, anybody could do this, whatever you're doing is so hard and crazy, you should just do this, do my program, it's easy, all
Yeah.
you have to do is this, you don't have to do any cardio, you don't have to do any tracking, you don't have to do any of this. And then you have the other side where there's people who are like, whoa, you are way off base, you don't have the science, and you should be tracking this and looking at your sodium, and just all kinds of crazy things. Like I see it all the time with my clients. I mean, I have some clients who come to me and they're like, how much water am I drinking? Enough water? Am I eating too much sodium? Am I eating too many processed foods? Like all this stuff. And it's like you said, it's really simple. And people are just trying to sell crap.
Yeah, it's nutrition and training is not rocket science. I mean, there is a scientific aspect to it. The deeper you go, the smaller you go, the more micro you go, you can get into all the science and all the minutia. But at the end of the day, all that is not necessarily going to help you lose weight and gain muscle. That happens from just simple habits that you can keep and keep doing. People often ask me what diet is the best. Well, the diet is the best, the one that you can stick to. That's what I always tell them.
Yes.
If you can't stick to it, then what's the point? You're going to lose a few pounds and
Exactly.
you put it back on. It doesn't make any sense. So when did you start training people?
So I've been training people for about 2 years now. I started in a gym, and I worked there for a few months. It was horrible. It was just, on the floor all day, and I just didn't really have a connection with my clients. Like they'd come in the gym, but then they could leave, eat whatever they wanted. There was no accountability there. And of course, you just get whoever comes into the gym. I would just get whoever was assigned to me. So it's kind of cool now because I can selectively work with vegans and women. So, in that regard, it's really great. And I would have to reserve an hour for one person. And, I mean, if I wanted to train 12 people a day, I'd be working 12 hours. So it was just really intense. Whereas now I can train a lot of people in less time. They can do it on their time when it's convenient for them. That way they can create more consistency, because whether it's before work or after work or whatever, they can create a lifestyle that works for them. And I message my clients, I do check-ins with them, so I can text them, they can reach out to me if they're struggling. So there's just much more accountability there. Like they can they have more support and more guidance from me. So well, online has been a good transition.
And you're also getting people that are dedicated, right? To a degree, they're dedicated because they're coming to you. Right. They're reaching out to you,
right,
as opposed to just, randomly being put together, with some person that, walks through the gym door who doesn't really, probably just, is just doing some training and doesn't really care and thinks they're doing something real good. And, at the end of a month or two, they still look the same, maybe worse. And then they blame you for it.
Exactly.
So at this point, how many clients do you usually take on at a time? Do you have a limit?
Yeah, I usually limit myself to about 15, just because I am a very hands-on trainer. So it does take up a lot of time doing the check-ins. And so 15 is about where I can kind of balance out work and lifestyle. So yeah, that's kind of where I hang out. But I do meal plans as well, and that's just unlimited because it's a one-time thing.
Right. And if somebody, I mean, as we're kind of winding down the episode, I wanted you to kind of talk about that. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so they can DM me. That's typically how I like to start my conversations. I like to get to know people and make sure that, they have realistic goals, because I don't do crazy 30-day transformations. So I want to make sure people have a very realistic and healthy mindset when they're looking for a coach. So yeah, I usually encourage people, DM me your goals, and if you're a good fit, I'll send you my packages. I also have a link in my Instagram bio that gives a little bit of detail on my full transformation package. So if anyone was interested in that as well, then they could click the link or DM me.
Awesome. And I'm going to link everything down below at the bottom of this video. So guys, definitely check Brooke out. She's unique in the sense that not only, is she training and fit, but she also deals with people that, only are vegan. Do you do like vegetarian and others as well? I assume you probably do, right? It's not too far
Yeah.
from your field of expertise.
Yeah, I work with everything. So I've done meal plans for gluten-free, soy-free, fructose-free, sorbitol-free, all kinds of things. So, no matter what your restrictions are or your intolerances are, it's all customized.
Yeah.
So it will be tailored to each individual.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, Brooke, thank you so much for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Yeah, definitely. You take care. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Yeah.